So, over the weekend, we got the second weekend box office numbers for Fantastic Four First Steps. It was all doom and gloom on Friday as people announced the Friday to Friday box office drop, which was the doomorous number of 80%. But that is not, of course, the actual number from the weekend. It did, however, crater a crazy amount. 66% this movie fell between week 1 and week 2.
Yep, and Variety reported the Doomer number grossed $11.7 million domestically in its second Friday on the big screen, making for a devastating 80% drop from its debut.
So before we get into the rest of the numbers, this is a matter of framing.
Yes.
Like, nobody was talking about the 70% that Superman fell between Friday to Friday, week 1 to week 2.
Yeah.
But it matters because the Superman box office drop in its second weekend was much lower. It only fell between 53 and 55%, depending on where you were getting your numbers from, which is vastly different than 66%. You want to stay under 60.
I can't pinpoint why, but it seems like the meta for talking about the superhero movies right now is DC is on the up and up and Marvel is flopping. Well, even if the numbers for both Superman and Fantastic Four were disappointing.
So it's really funny. I did a video over the weekend, like on my X. Like, I've been making videos for X. Just there's nowhere else to put them, and I'm making them at home, so I can't upload them here.
Yeah.
They don't make any. They'd look really weird if I uploaded them to this channel. And I did a video about this because the number had come out, and I remembered when Batman vs Superman came out, and it fell 69%, and people rightly pointed out that that was a massive drop at that time. But now suddenly everybody wants to kind of use weasel words and tell you why it's not as big of a deal now. And then the rest of the discussion is around the other people are people being like, why are we even talking about this? We should just enjoy the movies, which is, of course, nonsense. Like, it's a matter of discussion for people because it kind of indicates whether movies will be made again.
Yeah.
Like, whether the movie does well or not indicates whether we'll see more of these characters, unless, of course, you're Pedro Pascal, then they just force it down your throat, which is going to happen.
We should just take a moment of silence for all of the hard work that went into Fantastic Four.
They loved it. Have you ever seen?
They worked so hard on it.
Have you ever seen the bingo card of excuses?
The bingo card of cope.
It says
but they worked really hard on it.
See, the thing is I'm that person though. Like, I'm the person who does want to say,
okay,
look, they worked hard.
That's true of every
it.
movie.
Yeah.
We have another 20 from Corey Anderson. I have completed the last deployment of my career, number 119 degree temps, no more calls to prayer, no more being away from family, wouldn't change the last 20 years for anything. Glad to be back in the US after the rest of the world.
Wow, congratulations on that. Like, we can date our show in deployments, because I remember when he was leaving for deployment.
Yeah, when was that? Wasn't it?
How long, Corey, how long ago was that when you left for your last deployment? Let us know in the chat.
Congrats and welcome back.
Yeah. So it debuted. Okay, we're back on Fantastic Four here. So it debuted with $117 million. In its sophomore outing, it made $40 million from 4,125 theaters. That is a 66% drop. Heading into the weekend, box office analysts anticipated between 55 and 60%, and that would have been better. Unfortunately, because I did that video at home, I have like 2 pages of notes of like numbers of box office drops and everything like that. The fact of the matter is that Captain America fell far in its second week. Thunderbolts wasn't that far, but it didn't make that much to begin with, so it didn't matter. All of it kind of signals what I think is everyone knows but isn't willing to admit, which is that superhero movies had its time. The ones that end up making $1 billion will play on nostalgia, i.e. Deadpool and Wolverine, which played on the nostalgia of all of the, 20th century Fox movies. And going into the future, people just aren't going to have the same, like, you're even if you go back to the legacy characters, my point used to be that they have to go back to the characters that everybody recognizes. Even if you've never read a comic book in your life, you knew who Captain America was. Even if you had never read a comic book in your life, you knew who Superman was.
Sure.
Even the legacy characters, I think, aren't enough to really carry these things forward anymore.
Mean that superhero movies have been supplanted by video game related franchise movies.
That's what it feels like we're heading towards right now, is we're going to end up seeing, I can't get outside of Minecraft doing as well as it did, Mario Brothers doing as well as it did. I'm sure there's at least one other one. FNAF doing as well as it did. It feels like we are on the upswing because look, what was the audience for Minecraft? Yes, it was millennials, but there were a lot of Gen Z there as well. So you have to ask what's going to actually get the younger generations out to the theaters. I don't think that that's superhero movies. I think the hard part, though, is going to be the studios moving away from the idea of making them all TV shows.
Yeah.
And finding a way to put them in theaters. And apparently hiring Jack Black for each and every one of them.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the Zelda movie is going to perform well, especially because of the casting decision they made.
And that will be a millennial audience too, though. Like that'll be a Gen X and millennial audience for Zelda.
Culture Base also followed up with the biggest movies of the summer, and that is first Jurassic World Rebirth.
Hasn't even released in Japan yet.
1 month since its release, 731 million. Superman was second, and Fantastic Four was third.
Yeah.
This was responded to by John Rocha, who said, "Some people won't want to hear this, but it might be time to stop putting all the blame on studios or creatives for underperforming movies. It might be time to start looking at the intelligence level of moviegoers. If a phenomenally stupid film like Jurassic World Rebirth can crush films like Superman and Fantastic Four at the box office, then something might be wrong with all of us and not the studios or the creatives."
That is the most chill cope I've ever heard in my entire life. But do you remember when I've been saying for the last couple of years, people love the slop?
I reject the premise that Superman and Fantastic Four... I reject his premise that Superman and Fantastic Four are somehow inherently more intellectual than Jurassic World Rebirth. It's all slop to me. Yeah. And it's all slop. Like,
but the
objectively.
thing is, but this is a matter of saturation. There is less dino slop than there is skin, like tight slop, like cape slop.
Yes.
There are less dinosaur movies, therefore the demand will be higher because they don't come out as often.
Although Godzilla -1 is, if you would count that as dino slop, did really well.
Yeah, but that wasn't lauded as slop. That was lauded as actual artistic filmmaking. And look, the Godzilla Kong franchises all do pretty well that they're still going right now. The fact is, people are burnt out on superheroes, and whether you think his take is intellectual or not, in the capitalist world we live in, the audience is not wrong. It is the company's job, it is the creative's job to work together to create something that will get you, the audience, to part with your money. Like literally every day your currency is worth less and less. And it becomes harder and harder to justify spending your money on stuff like this. So if the idea here is that you have to pick one movie over the summer to go and sit down in front of and become a zombie for 2 hours, you're like, you know what? There's less dino slop. I'm going to go see the dinosaur movie before I go see. Again, hasn't come out in Japan yet, so that number is going to jump higher. It's going to make even more money than that. Now, granted, not as much as the Chris Pratt movies did, but it's a matter of saturation.
One of the replies echoed your point, saying the audience is never wrong. The story producers are always to blame if the project fails. If you're blaming the audience, then you've lost the thread. And he said, no block of people, no matter how massive, is, quote, never wrong. That's idiotic to say. Audiences in numerous arenas have been wrong in a myriad of ways for centuries of our Earth's existence. The judgment of human beings from something small like movies to something big like political movements can absolutely be called into question.
No. This is not... No. It's a transaction. You, the person selling the product, are saying, this is what I have to offer. Please pay me for it. They can't be wrong. They can only decide to buy it or not. Are you insane?
That's different than comparing it to a political movement or a cult. You know, like that's like saying like cults are never wrong. Like that's not the same thing.
Let me reel it back in. Okay, so this is clearly one of those things that happens on X where people, they devolve into making their own talking points, and they're not even listening to what the other person has to
waffles.
say.
Oh, so you hate pancakes?
Yes. No. In a transactional relationship where you're selling a movie that costs hundreds of millions of dollars, it is your job to guarantee that whatever story you're selling to people is so good that after its opening weekend, people either want to come back for a second viewing or they speak so highly of it that their friends have to go and see it.
I just don't understand his point that somehow Superman or Fantastic Four is like the epitome of intellectually stimulating cinema.
Yeah.
Like, that I just reject on its face. Matt Walsh also had a controversial take on the underperformance of Fantastic Four. He said the Fantastic Four are a really stretchy guy, a guy made of rocks, a guy who lights on fire, and a girl who does whatever she does. These are literal characters that a 6-year-old would invent. You just can't keep making movies around these kinds of characters without people getting bored, and that seems to finally be happening. And I just know George Alexopoulos saw this tweet and is somewhere punching the air right now.
Just furious. We love you, G Prime, but I can tell that he
I'm
did
still
not
waiting
like
for the debate between Matt Walsh and George Alexopoulos to happen one day. I'd love to see it.
This is a 20.
From Pop Culture Junkie. Having been a film critic, you accept the fact that it's show business, emphasis on business. Blame the audience? That is gigantically moronic.
Yeah. Like, I saw that. I'm like, no. Like, you sell a product. It's your job to get people to pay. That's why 90%, that's why it's the attention economy. They're trying to keep your eyes on the product as long as possible to sell you advertisements.
I think what Matt Walsh is saying is just more reflective of his own tastes than anything. It's a comic book movie. There are plenty of highly performing comic book movies with stupid premise or stupid character story.
Deadpool and Wolverine
you know,
wasn't exactly the highlight of storytelling.
Spider-Man is just a guy who like shoots webs and flies around in the air. Like, that's so dumb. Nobody wants to watch that. Well, that's not true, right?
This is I like this. When I saw this take just before we went live, and I think it is a sobering thing to think about. This is from someone named Dan Wiesenmeyer. Says, here's the hard reality of the MCU. There's no getting the mojo back. What happened between 2008 and 2019 was lightning in a bottle. It was a wonderful ride that cannot and will not ever be replicated. The studio is different. The business is different. The audience is different. Actually, I think the audience is the same. The normies have checked out. So your core audience are always going to show up there, but the normies that don't really care about this stuff are no longer going to feel that pull to go into it anymore. They don't care anymore.
Yeah. But they don't care anymore because Marvel made mistakes with the messaging in their movies, or just because it naturally came to a close?
It came to a close, and then it got oversaturated on Disney Plus, and it became homework. And people are like, I'm going to go watch Skibbity Toilet. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe they didn't do that, but they were like, you know what? I've got other things to do.
I was really surprised when you said that Brad Pitt's highest-grossing movie has been F1. His entire career,
of his entire film catalog.
That's not shocking because of F1. It's shocking just because of how streaming exists now.
It's also true though that he made movies at a time period where the majority of the money he made would likely have been on DVD sales. Like, really good on the back end of the deal, I'm sure. Mm-hmm.
But it's just surprising because of the way that media is consumed now, that's even possible. And the fact that movie going is less popular objectively than it was in the 90s or 2000s.
Yeah. Which is weird because everybody's watching stuff. It's just that nobody's watching the same stuff.
And they're also watching whatever they watch at home. They're not interested in going to the movies anymore.
Yeah, that's 100%.
So that was shocking.
All right, it's bad. Look, it's bad news for Marvel. Superman, though it surpassed Man of Steel at the box office domestically, is still a ways behind it in total because of the international numbers. They can spin this crap all they want, but it's not like a 600. Even if it gets to like $650 million, look, I can't say that The Batman making $770 million was meh, and then Superman making $600 million is somehow better. You could maybe make the argument that could be true because Batman is just a more popular character, but I still think that gone are the days. Look, there are going to be no more Aquaman billion-dollar movies being a character that normies had never heard of and then made $1 billion at the box office. I just don't think that's going to happen. And I think Supergirl, unless something drastically changes and then the trailer ends up wowing everybody, like, I don't see it being this huge hit. But we'll have to wait and see.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.